Guys, this is the 2016 Chicago Vintage and Custom Drum Show with Vintage Drum Stock. We'll be back. Good afternoon, everybody. Jim MESSINA here with Vintage Drum Stock, and we're at the 2016 Chicago Vintage and Custom Drum Show at the new location, the Odeum Expo Center, and we're going to be doing some really good interviews here. Totally vintage. We'd like to present the vintage aspect of the show. I'm sitting here with Mark Cooper, my vintage collector buddy. Mark Cooper, how you doing?
Very nice to see you.
Mark, I'll tell you, you're here this year, but you're not displaying, right?
I'm here as a civilian only.
A civilian only, he says. All right, so that means you're not displaying, but you're sitting here, and we're going to look at some of the fantastic things you've been doing this year. You know, Mark sends me pictures all the time of new acquisitions that he's gotten, okay? Some of them are just, he has them maybe for a month or so, and they're already gone to some other collector. But one particular piece that he honed in on, I find so fascinating, and I want you to tell the folks about this this drum that's related to Gene Krupa.
Well,
what are we looking at here, Mark? Now we want to
see if we can get that picture
about
up.
Gene Krupa. Here he is. Here he is behind the drums. What is he, with Benny Goodman here?
Yes, it's
okay.
with the Benny Goodman. I think that's a small trio, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, but what set is he playing there?
That's that's probably his very first Slingerland set that he had custom made for him. At that time, as most people know, tunable tom-toms didn't exist, and Gene was known for his tom-tom rhythms. I mean, that's what he was really famous for. So he needed specially made, custom-sized tom-toms.
And that's what we're looking at here. It's a distant picture, but
it is.
He's got two mounted toms, and one appears to be what? Is that maybe a 10-inch tom?
I think that's a 12-inch tom on the right side.
Okay.
And the one to the left is a 5 by 10.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Maybe there's a closer picture.
That's a
all right.
better.
There's a little blow up of it now. Huh. This is you could tune both heads with this, right?
Yes, you could tune top and bottom, which prior to this time that was unheard of. You were at the mercy of the weather. As you know, calf skins would loosen and tighten on their own, and you had very little control over them. And so Gene needed something that he could fine-tune his new special sound that he was developing. And so he had the folks at Slingerland work together with him closely to come up with just the perfect tom-toms that he needed for his sound.
Now there it is again in this shot, a closer shot. Now, I don't recall ever seeing a tom. What is that? This is in what, 1938?
No, this is actually an older photo. That would be about 19. Okay, I take it back. This photo is probably from 38.
Yeah.
But the drum set predates to about 1935.
Uh-huh. And here he's got a tom like that. I don't know. I had never seen that. But
no one had at that time. That was
until now, right?
Until now.
Until now, because we want to show you this tom right here. Tell us about this, Mark.
Well, this is a Slingerland 5 by 10 tom-tom with 5 tube lugs and a special rotary tom mount. And this was all custom made for Gene for his set. And recently, that set that we just looked at has disappeared and no one has seen it since. But miraculously, about 6 months ago, this tom-tom, I was able to acquire this from a collector. And it turns out this was the actual tom-tom from Gene Krupa's very first drum set.
Now, I know that the drum we're looking at here looks just like the one in the pictures. Who'd you get this from, and how can you actually authenticate that this is probably the drum in the picture, right?
Well,
is what you're saying.
A very good friend of mine is a Gene Krupa, Benny Goodman historian, and he's worked with the Smithsonian Institute.
Who's that? Who's
that? His name is Brooks Tegler.
Brooks Tegler, yes, I've heard that name. Yeah.
And he's a genius when it comes to Gene Krupa history, and and he just knows the ins and outs of everything to do with Slingerland from that period.
And he was in possession of this drum, and wasn't there? What was
No,
the?
it wasn't. He
Oh.
just he advised when I acquired the drum. I told him about it, and he got very excited, but he was also a bit skeptical. And so what we did, we got together and blew up the photos that we just looked at, and honed in on the pearl pattern. And sure enough, it's almost like fingerprinting identification.
Really? Huh.
No two pearl patterns are ever alike, as you know.
Right.
And we were able to get just the right angle, and it was bingo. There it is. That is the same drum, without
What was
without
the
a doubt.
Mather part? Wasn't there something?
Yes, if there's a photo in here somewhere of the drum heads on this drum, and it's got Bill Mather's drum shop in New York City.
Well, I know we have shot of the interiors. That's pretty interesting. But so now, what about the Mather drum shop? How does that tie in with Gene Krupa?
Bill Mathers was an English gentleman that came to New York City and opened a drum shop, and he was basically Gene Krupa's drum tech and manufactured custom parts, customized his drums, drilled certain cymbal mounts and tom-tom mounts to Gene's specifications. You know, he would alter, customize them and alter them.
All right. So you see, was there an emblem on here from Mather, or?
Well, the drum heads actually have
Oh,
his
okay,
logo
I see.
stamped in them, and
How-
also they have the letters GK right next to it.
That's fantastic. Here it is right here. I think we have an example
Here we
of
go,
that.
yes.
Now look, this is Mather Drum Center, 315 West 47th Street, New York. And look at that, G and K. G on the left and K on the right.
Yeah. Now there's no way. There's no way to. First, I'll tell you, I didn't write that on there.
No.
But there's no way to really to
Okay.
determine if that was written by Gene or if someone put that in later. No one knows. But
Yeah,
I'd like
but-
to think when Gene was sitting up on the bandstand during rehearsal, he got bored and decided to write his initials on there.
To me, it's just too coincidental not to be true.
True, but you have to maintain skepticism on things like
Yes.
this. You can't assume anything without proof, and it's just, otherwise it's just a good story.
So is this the extent of the proof that you would say you have that this was actually?
This was the icing on the cake. What really proved it was focusing in on the pearl pattern, like I said. And there was one shot. It's hard to see here. This is the other side. Notice the nice dent in the hoop.
Yes, I see that.
We're gonna leave that just like it is. But it was the pearl pattern that really proved conclusively that this was the one and the
I'm
same.
not sure what you were looking for, but yeah, when
This
you in
was the-
diamond pearl, there's,
Different
if you really
sharp
scrutinize
angles.
it, I guess.
Yes, and there's a little V shape there. You're right there. And that was one of the features that really jumped out at us, where we said, "Yep, that's it."
And you both concur. I mean, that must send chills down your
It
spine
did.
to realize, wait a minute.
It really did. It kind of gave me goosebumps when I saw it. And the other thing is, I have never seen a tube lug small tom-tom like that in over 30 years of collecting and studying.
Wow. Now here's the interior of the drum.
This is another interesting thing. A different style of wood grain that you would, from what you would normally see on a Radio King. This is a vertical grain.
Like
I
a
think-
Lawan wood?
Yes, I think it's a poplar, actually.
Okay.
And they stopped doing that shortly after. By 1936 or so, it was just standard mahogany, horizontal grain.
Yeah.
So just another feature that points to it being exactly what we think it is.
You can see the vertical grain there. Really clean inside too.
Yeah, the heads hadn't been off.
Wow, that's amazing. Look at that. There, now you can, but I am seeing, look, see this?
Yes.
What would you call that? It is vertical, but not. You know what I mean? Which is even better because it's not pure Luan, because the Luan stuff we see today is definitely
Exactly.
vertical.
Yes. This is a high quality poplar, I think, is what that is.
Well, I find this to be extremely amazing. I mean, and this is in your possession. I have a video here somewhere. Let's look at that. It's kind of cool to look at this little video.
There we
of it.
go.
Here's the drum, very clean looking, beautiful. Mark.
I didn't clean it. I didn't touch it. I didn't alter it. I mean, I usually polish and clean
Yeah.
every drum that I get, but this, there was no way I was going to.
Now, did I see a crack there or something?
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not
there's
sure.
there's a couple little splits in the pearl.
right here.
right
okay,
there.
I see. Yeah. Huh. But still,
Yeah, and it's just character lines.
to me, the provenance overrides any of that. Beautiful. Look at a Gene Krupa. Something like this hasn't surfaced in a long time. I bet all the Gene Krupa fanatics would go nuts over something like this.
And it makes you wonder what happened to the rest of his set.
Yes,
and,
where's
and from what we can determine, he probably did not like the sound of this little drum because he eliminated this from his set very early on and replaced it with a 9x13 or an 8x12 and a 9x13, and you never see him use something like this again, except a few years later, his whole orchestra had little series of small
I
tom-toms.
have seen pictures like that
But they
on their
weren't-
little
they-
podiums. Yeah, their music stands.
Yes.
Yeah.
And no, they weren't tubular lug. They were actual Radio King style lugs.
Now,
on
the
them.
picture that we're looking at right now, this predates this tom, doesn't it?
Yes.
Except I'm looking at the floor tom. Check that out.
Yes. And again, if you notice, it has a tacked on bottom head. So this is his early set, and he's just quickly determining that this isn't working for him. So he had Slingerland make a floor tom with 2 sets of lugs so that they could be tuned on both top and bottom. And here he is using some really ancient Chinese tom, which he got rid of pretty quickly and replaced it with, most likely, with that little tom we've been
Now,
discussing.
was he one of the first to play, toms that are tunable on both sides?
As far as I can determine, yeah, he was the pioneer of that style. I mean, nobody was really, except for they would do what they called Oriental numbers in the band, and they'd have these dull-sounding tom-toms that were imported from China, and that's all that was available at the time.
What a story! An actual Gene Krupa tom that he actually played. I mean, and I think you have every reason to believe that that's authentic because of the Mather connection and all that.
And obviously, those heads could have been changed, so you can't rely on just one feature. It's a combination of all that points to this being the actual drum.
This is very Cooper-esque here. These are the kind of things you come across. You always blow me away with these kind of discoveries.
And it's got his DNA all over,
Yes.
I'm sure. So another reason not to clean it. I tried not to get any of my DNA on it mixed up. We don't want to
Keep it
confuse.
clean, right.